Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to look at one of my 2021 goals, which is to read 12 non-fiction books this year. So let's jump into it. Right, so beside me I have a stack of the books I would like to read to hit my 12 non-fiction books in 2021. I have 9 here, I think, and then 3 I will pop up on the screen because I will get them either through Audible or my library, or I may buy them when I come to read them. But let's go through my physical stack first. I will be reading the descriptions of some of these, most of these, because I don't know all the details about them, but that's okay, that makes it fun. And then we will come back to this next January and see if I completed it. Please, please, please hold me to completing this. So I really do like non-fiction books. I typically buy them, but they don't have as much priority. They don't get as much priority as my fiction books. And yeah, so I just kind of want to make my way through the ones I own and tell you my thoughts and opinions and feelings. Sorry that the lighting is weird. It's winter in England and we haven't had like proper sunlight in a few days. So we're gonna go with the vibes of lots of light and weird shadows. Anyway, so let's get started with the first one. The first one is Shakespeare by Bill Bryson. This is all about Shakespeare and I guess diving into more things about him. There's not very much known about Shakespeare, and yeah, so that's what that's about. And it just says, we don't know if he ever left England, we don't know who his principal companions were or how he amused himself. His sexuality, there we go, is an irreconcilable mystery. Only a handful of days in his life can we say with absolute certain where he was. We have no record at all of his whereabouts for the 8 critical years when he left his wife and 3 young children in Stratford and became, with almost impossible swiftness, a successful playwright in London. By the time he was first mentioned in print as a playwright in 1592, his life was already more than half over. For the rest, he is kind of a literary equivalent of an electron, forever there and not there. And yeah, I was a theatre nerd in high school as well as university. I studied theatre, and so I want to read this. I am really curious about Shakespeare, especially because there is so much mystery surrounding him and his plays, and it's often said that other people wrote his plays. So I want to see what Bill Bryson has to say about this. The next has been on my shelf for quite a while now, and it's just Voices from the Great War by Peter Van Sittart, and I think this is all about letters and poems and newspaper articles and things that were written during the time of the First World War, and you just from what I can tell, it's just like little clippets and quotes. So the back says, bringing together Sigmund Freud, Osip Mandelstam, Lloyd George, Bertrand Russell, Isaac Rosenberg, Siegfried Sassoon, Werther Britten, voices famous and unknown, Peter Van Sittart takes us through a course of the Great War, juxtaposing letters from the trenches with music hall songs and the words of poets and politicians, linking the public and personal, the history with myth. His rich and unorthodox anthology forms a moving image of everything that went into the war and accumulated in its scalding waste of spirit. So yeah, it seems very interesting, very moving, very impactful. The next one is going to make you giggle because it's the QI Book of the Dead. It's just a bunch of people famous and obscure, their lives written about, and I started reading this at a friend's house. They had it in their spare room when we could be staying with friends, and then I saw it and picked up my own copy, and it's just been sitting on my shelf. I have read a bit of it and like highlighted things because it's broken down into there's nothing like a bad start in life, happy-go-lucky, driven, let's do it, man cannot live by bread alone, grin and bear it, the monkey keepers, who do you think you are, once you're dead you made it for life, is that all there is? And there's 5 or more people in each category, and it breaks down their life in like bite-sized chunks, and it just says 6 dozen lives of the most successful, happiest, saddest and maddest men and women in history, selected at random from the 90 billion human beings who have ever lived. And then on the back it just has some examples of who it talks about. I am actually quite chuffed to get to this. It was really interesting when I started reading it, and then I put it down because I do that with non-fiction and it's my biggest pet peeve. So this next one I threw in here on a whim, mainly because I found it in my husband's old university textbooks and thought it would be interesting, and that is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's a book about strategy. I think this is the full version from what I can tell, and not just some like university leadership course book. But yeah, it just sounds interesting and I thought I would read it. Maybe it can help me be more strategic in my life planning. So it's got making plans, waging of war, strategic offence, forms and dispositions, potential energy, empty and full, the fray, the 9 changes, on the march, form of terrain, the 9 kinds of ground, attack by fire and espionage. So yeah. Then we get into my animal books. I am a big wildlife nerd. I just adore being outside. I adore animals and wildlife and protecting wildlife. If you follow my Instagram account, you can see that I absolutely adore taking photos of wildlife. And so I did this to my parents in the US and then they sent it to me. And for some reason, Amazon or Thrift Books sent me an advance copy and I'm a bit disappointed by that. As special as it is to get those, A, they're not meant to be for sale, and B, it's all in black and white. So yeah, but I will treasure this. But this is Poached by Rachel Love Newer and it's inside the dark world of wildlife trafficking. I did start reading this last year. I got almost halfway through, maybe a quarter of the way through, and I had to put it down because it is absolutely like just saddening. It's saddening because it's inside the dark world of wildlife trafficking. It's all about animals and why they're poached and why they're hunted and things, and yeah, it has made me very sad. I had to take a break. I am going to finish this year. I think it's important, but last year it was a bit of a heavy read. Intrepid Investigation of the Criminal World of Wildlife Trafficking, the poachers, the traders, the customers and those fighting against it. Journalist Rachel Newer plunges the reader into the underground of global wildlife trafficking, a topic she has been investigating for nearly a decade. Our insatiable demand for animals, for jewellery, pets, medicine, meats, trophies and fur is driving a worldwide poaching epidemic, threatening the continued existence of countless species. Illegal wildlife trade now ranks among the largest contraband industry in the world, yet compared to drug, arms or human trafficking, the wildlife crisis has received scant attention and support, leaving it up to those passionate individuals fighting on the ground to try and ensure that elephants, tigers, rhinos and more are still around us for future generations. As reefer madness took us into the drug market, or Susan Orlean descended into the swampy obsession of the orchid thief, Newer, an award-winning science journalist with a background in ecology, takes readers on a narrative journey to the front lines of the trade, to the killing fields in Africa, traditional medicine black markets in China, and wild meat restaurants in Vietnam. Through exhaustive first-hand reporting that took her to 10 countries, Newer explores forces currently driving demand for animals and their parts, the toll that demand is extracting on species across the planet, and the conservationists, rangers and activists who believe it's not too late to stop the impending extinctions. More than a depressing list of statistics, Poached is the story of people who believe this is a battle that can be won, that our animals are not beyond salvation. I did start reading this, and there is one thing I will say about her writing. It's very captivating and it's not heavy-handed with scientific facts. I mean, there are scientific facts, but it's not like you're just reading data reports. It's very inviting and just heartbreaking, and I really, really cannot wait to finish this year. So the next book I want to read is H is for Hawk. I believe this is a memoir tale of a lady who really wants to become a falconer. It says, as a child, Helen MacDonald was determined to become a falconer, learning the arcane terminology and reading all the classic books. Years later, when her father died, she was struck deeply by grief. She became obsessed with the idea of training her own goshawk. She bought Mabel for £800 on a Scottish quayside and took her home to Cambridge, ready to embark on the long and strange business of trying to train the wildest of animals. H is for Hawk is an unflinching, honest account of MacDonald's struggle with grief during the difficult process of hawk training, and her own untaming. This is a book about memory, nature, nation, and how it might be possible to reconcile death with life and love. Very interesting. I had the opportunity to go and handle birds and learn about falconry and conservation with animals like this, and it was super interesting. and I live in Cambridgeshire, so this is a bit close to my own heart, and I do really want to read this. So yeah. And then the next three. The next three are going to tell you what I'm obsessed with the most, and that's okay. These are my Tudor books, and I have just fallen into a great sinkhole watching some really good documentaries on BBC, and now I've got some epic reads. The first one I have is Catherine Howard, The Tragic Story of Henry's Fifth Queen. And this is by Josephine Wilkinson, and it's just about Kitty Howard and what happened to her. It says, Catherine Howard was the fifth wife of Henry VIII and cousin to the executed Anne Boleyn. She was beheaded in 1542 for crimes of adultery and treason, in one of the most sensational scandals of the Tudor age. Far from being a dark tale of court factionalisms and conspiracy, Catherine's story is one of child abuse, family ambition, religious conflict, and political intrigue. It is also a tragic love story. A bright, kind, intelligent young woman, Catherine, had a strong sense of duty and tried to be a good wife to Henry. She handled herself with grace, dignity to the end, even as the barge carrying her on her final journey drew up the Tower of London, where she was to be executed. Little more than a child in a man's world, she was a tragic victim of those who held positions of authority over her, and those who influenced she was never able to escape. So yeah, Catherine Howard. Oh, blimey. And then the next books. I'm so excited. I found these because I want to read all of them and I want to collect them. So this is the start of a new collection for me, and it is the books by Alison Weir. Oh, I'm so excited for these. She is so renowned for her Tudor history knowledge, and the writing of these I've sampled a bit. They're good. They're good. So I've got Henry VIII, King and Court. So you basically get to see his daily life, how life was in the court, the kind of political and like social hierarchy and things. I think this is going to be very, very, very interesting, and I'm excited to read it. And the next one I got again is another Alison Weir book, and this is about Mary Queen of Scots and the murder of Lord Darnley. So if you don't know, he was murdered. They don't know who murdered him. It is very like highly suspected that Mary murdered him because he was an awful person, and it kind of led to her downfall and ruin. So that's what this book explores. I'm just really excited, and it's got pictures, which who doesn't love pictures in their books? And then the next few I want to read, I will pop on the screen. I want to read Becoming by Michelle Obama because I'm late to this game, as well as Promised Land because they're both narrated by the author. So Becoming is narrated by Michelle Obama and Promised Land is narrated by Barack Obama. And they both sound very, very good. And then I have a few books that I want to read as well. I want to read Hood Feminism as well as Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. These two sound really good, so fingers crossed I can get to them. I realise that's like a bonus number, but I like variety. Right, that's enough of me rambling. What is one of your 2021 goals? Leave that in the comment below. I hope you're all staying happy, safe and healthy, and I will see you soon in another video. Bye guys!